Welcome everyone to this webinar of the LETHE Project. My name is Sten Hanke. I'm the coordinator. I have been the coordinator of this great project. As you all know,
यार अभी प्रोजेक्ट कैसे प्रेजेंट करता है लोग
excuse me.
ये
So
टेंस का म्यूट हो रहा है ना
there's someone not muted. John, can you mute the one participant, please? As you know, this project, the LETHE project, has been running for 4.5 years now, and it's ended on June. Today we have the 4th of July, so it's sharp after the project end, and we thought it might be a good opportunity to also yeah, have at least in the internet realm a last event where we want to conclude the project and present some results. Um, to say up front, we will go in detail in the study, also a bit in the results there. The study finished just in May, so we have just preliminary results, but I think it will be a nice event, and I'm happy that you are all here today with me. Um, the webinar is recorded because we also make this recording available after the event has been concluded. Yeah, we had already some microphone issue with some participants. Please turn off your camera and your microphone. At the end, we will have questions and discussion. Then, of course, you are very welcome to turn on your microphone and also the camera. And captions will be also available in your language. From the agenda, we have a very short project overview from myself as the coordinator of the project. Then I will also take over the presentation of the technical infrastructure, technical setup, which we used in the 2-year study. Then my colleague from Maastricht, Jeroen, will present some results on the uh, behavior change for dementia risk reduction. And then we have a talk from Helena Untersteiner from Medical University of Vienna on the study itself and some preliminary findings. And then we have also a live demo from Mattia from Italy on the Brain Health Literacy Portal, which will be one cornerstone, which will live also beyond the end of the project. So maybe this is interesting for you. And then hopefully we have time for some questions. Here you have also the pictures and a more detailed description of the speakers today. And with this, I would start with the first slides on the project. Just some initial thoughts on the call we submitted back then. Like you see, the project duration was 48 months, which was of course intentionally let long because we knew that of course with uh, risks, diseases like dementia, there is a slow decline if there's any. So we wanted from the beginning to do a rather long study, which is maybe not too typical in Horizon 2020 project. So a 2-year study, full 2-year study. And we wrote the proposal in during COVID times. So it was for me actually quite interesting experience. And yeah, I feel also a bit sad that now the project comes to an end. Um, we had 3 main pillars in the project. On the right, you see this very well-known graphic on from Livingston, which is updated on yearly basis with a lot of experts in the field of dementia and neurology. And you can see there a graphic which is mostly typical for a lot of chronic diseases, but for dementia, there you can see the risk factors, which are postulated based on meta-analysis. And there you see that literature says that 45 of these risk factors are potentially modifiable. And this is, of course, one big motivation for the LETHE project. So starting from the third point, one main goal of LETHE was to digitalize this prevention protocol from the finger study, which I think concluded in 2017, which more or less the first time showed that health lifestyle interventions have a positive outcome on dementia risk factors. And we wanted to digitalize this intervention to open also the protocol for a broader scale. And we also wanted to include digital biomarkers, which brings us to point two, meaning we wanted to collect as much as possible in an active or passive way biomarkers from the daily life, meaning with a wearable or with questionnaires over an app, with other inputs over an app to have a good overview of intervention data over a 2-year trial in all the lifestyle categories, which you can see basically on the right side in the graphic. And the first point, which was also important in the project, we wanted to work with AI tools to predict the risks and cognitive decline, and using this data which we collect to use them, so to say, for guiding the intervention, but also to cluster the group of participants based on their risk and based also on their most potentials in digital intervention or intervention in general. These three main goals of the project led to these objectives. You can see there that, of course, they group around AI and data-driven innovation. So basically, like I said, and what is also a main achievement in the project, to collect a huge data set of intervention data over 2 years of clinical data, but also on digital data, and use AI tools to use this data to guide or make a better intervention. Then, of course, impact on the health system. It is a goal, or was a goal of the project, to have here also an impact on future secondary preventions of dementia. This has, of course, also a political level and organizational level, how to organize this in future. There is these papers about these brain health service centers, which are maybe near to establish in Europe. All these also should have or will be influenced, hopefully, on LETHE results. And then, of course, to keep people of risks longer healthy and understand the progression better. We had a consortium well balanced, I think, of 4 clinical centers, some technical partners on AI and also cloud data processing, and of course also partners which are driving the exploitation and dissemination of the project results. We will go in details on some achievements. I made my head around of the most important things as a summary here at the beginning already of the webinar. I think, and you will see more details in detail later, we made a quite successful clinical study, a feasibility study, with a great adherence. You will see some data later, great adherence regarding the protocol, but also the usage of the digital tools. We had very few dropouts. To be concrete, we had 4 dropouts over 4 years, over 2 years, which I think is very good. I think we made some interesting achievements in the world of AI. Of course, these are initial models which need to be further evaluated in further studies and further trials. We have an AI toolbox on cognitive status assessment, on cognitive risk assessment, on baseline. So before, when we onboard study or patients in the clinical centers, we can also already estimate where their risk will be in which lifestyle domain, and also the risk progression over the next 2 years. And we have also an AI model on adherence prediction, so that we upfront see if an individual will progress or even drop out of some possible intervention study. Yeah, like I said, we have based on this rather successful clinical study, I would say we collect a lot of data, and we have a good data set of 2-year intervention data with digital and clinical biomarkers of around 160 participants. And I think this is rather unique, especially including the digital data. We have also technical achievements, the app and the dashboard I would mention here, which actually, and this you see on the right, has been published yesterday. Quite good paper, I think, summarizing the functions and development of the app and the dashboard, which hopefully will be used in future trials as well. Other publications, of course, have also been achieved already. You can see them on the homepage. And with that, I would lead to the next slides regarding the technical setup. If not mentioned already, please, if you have questions, you can also post them in the chat. John will forward them to me, and we can discuss these things later. So like I said already, one main motivation was to have, in the best case, in all lifestyle categories, a good overview how the people in the studies are progressing. Of course, this is for some lifestyle categories like physical activity due to variables more easy than for other lifestyle categories like social activity. Nevertheless, we wanted to have a digital footprint in all the lifestyle categories, and for that, we chose the setup, what you can hear. Another thought was, of course, that based also of experience of other projects, that the setup should be very stable and simple on the other side, because we knew that we go in a 2-year study. So we had more or less technical setup based on an app we developed and a wearable. Of course, the phone as well, where the app is running. You can see in the intervention group that we also had the tablet here, which we gave out to participants which didn't had any other computer screen or tablet, so that they could do the cognitive games on a more bigger screen, and as well the videos which we had in the app to see them on a bigger screen. A small detailed and technical setup, we had in the intervention group a more advanced wearable, what you can see there, Fitbit, and in the control group a more simple one, because we thought at the beginning to use the display. At the end, we didn't do it. So this was actually not necessary, because all the digital data like sleep data, physical activity data, and so on, they were equally recorded by both of these wearables. We have in our YouTube channels quite nice videos about our developments regarding the app and the dashboard. So you can, I'm happily invite you to see these videos, but also here in the slides, you can see that we had some of this function, what we have here. So we have, like in the middle screen, for example, some fields where we wanted to collect easily data, so people could track their personal goals, their habits. They could see the calendar when there were next visits or appointments, because we had a hybrid intervention actually. So they had also appointments with physiotherapists and so on. Of course, for feedback, it is important to have a score there to see also their progression, so to say. We have here you can see the score. Of course, we tried also in the score to reflect all these lifestyle domains which we had the intervention on. So physical activity, sleep, and so on. You can see, by the way, in the upper right corner, the symbols regarding the intervention domains. We had lifestyle program where you could go to a screen where different videos and activities were explained regarding physical activity, relaxation, but also you had there the possibility to enter data additionally to the data we anyway collected, like alcohol use, cigarettes smoked, and so on. As you know, that these things, of course, are rather difficult to collect passively. Of course, in general, all the things which the wearable, for example, collects are more easy in the moment. A person, and you know it maybe from yourself, needs to input data on daily or weekly level actively. There you have, of course, the risk of missing data out. So we tried really to measure as most as possible the things passively, but of course some things are difficult to measure passively. So we provide a lot of opportunity to collect also actively data from the users. The personal goals were set together with the PIs and the visits. we have a lot of goals and tiny habits in the different categories, what you can see in the very right screen. And of course, not to overwhelm the participants, a subset of these goals and tiny habits were collected, which best fits the motivation of the user and the intervention categories where the user wanted to emphasize on. The difference is here that these tiny habits comes a bit of out of psychology, was not our we were not the first which we used them in interventions. The idea is here to have small habits which you anchor actually to another habit, for example, to have always some nuts with you in the pocket or to do some certain activities in terms with other routines you already do to really establish them. Because of course, in health intervention, the main goal is to change the behavior on a longer scale and not only have an app which reminds you of doing certain stuff. The idea is really to turn yourself to a more healthy lifestyle. But my colleague Jeroen, which is expert in this field, will outline these points a bit more. The personal goals on the other side were, like I said, set together with the study stuff and were more, like you see there, 1,000 steps per day, more on a broader scale, I would say, or eat fish once a week, such goals in the domains. Um, what was a big achievement in general, I would say, is to pass all the questionnaires where we did a lot in the app, which makes it, of course, also easier for the clinical centers. And as you will see later, there is a close coupling between the dashboards of the professionals and the app of the user. So the professionals could also see basically in real time who did already the questionnaires, which questionnaires are open from which participant, and so on. So they had in real time basically a feedback or an overview where each participant on individual level stands with the questionnaires. And of course, it leaves also big freedom to the individual because they could do the questionnaire wherever they want. In the second screen, you see all the open questionnaires. The participant had the app. Questionnaires which were overdue have been colored in a color. And if a questionnaire was finished, then it disappeared from the screen. What we did also regarding a lot of functions like the cognitive games and videos, what you can see in the very right screen, we provided a QR code and a link. So you could always open videos and other things, games, for example, with another tablet or computer, or send it to you via email to do in other places with other devices like you want. So this gave also a big flexibility to the users. Yeah, I mentioned the CTMS dashboard already. This is basically for the clinical trial management system for the professionals. And they could see here on one screen, divided by the countries, all their participants. They didn't achieve their goals, they didn't use the app anymore. All these things could be seen there. If you go further in the participants, you have all the possibilities to add also adverse event and other data, actually all visit and based on a main technical aim to collect the data in one environment, meaning one database. So we wanted to have from the beginning all the clinical data and the digital data from Fitbit and the app in really one database. That's why we took the effort to develop the CTMS, where really the clinicians also on baseline and in the visits entered all their data, what they test. Like I said before, the finished, non-finished questionnaires. You could also push messages on the phone of the user. You could plan appointments from the board, from the dashboard directly in the calendar of the participant. You see this there in the upper right corner, the visits appearing there then. Yeah, all these functions were provided in this dashboard. Here you can which has been published 2 days ago, this close interaction of the app and the dashboard with all the functions and modules. I think I have not the time to go in detail here, but please check out the paper to see more information on this. I mentioned at the beginning data set. I mentioned also that the data set is just closed some to analyze all the data. There will be the room for publication for the next years. I would say the consortium is very motivated to do also this analysis. I think there's a great potential for more publications, and we want to go down this road. Some statistics here, of course, it's not complete. Like I said, 56 participants, 4 countries, 2 years, 4 clinical visits, including the baseline visit. Then we have here biomarkers. Like I said, actively the user needs to do something in the app, and passively over the wearable and clinical visit data. Just to present some numbers, we have more than 15,000 questionnaires filled to be analyzed. With the user tracked in person in total 1,043 personal goals. If you divide this by the 156 participants, you a big chunk also of heart rate data. This is just an example to show you that also from this wearable we got a quite good collection. The participants used and were wearing the wearable quite on a high scale. I would say we have a lot of sleep data. Here's this impressive number. Of course, these is not the nights, it's so to say different. You divide it by the days, 2 years, and the participants, you have around over 11,000 of these data points regarding sleep per person overall. And this is, of course, quite nice. I think sleep we also want to analyze in detail later this year. The screen changes give you an idea that the app also was used quite till the end. Basically, in average, 3.2 screen changes per person. And also this, I think, is a good result, so that really the app has and the wearable have been used till the end of the study by a lot of participants. At the end, I want to present some minor slides regarding what we did in AI. Like we said, we wanted to project. We did here that we trained a model on the NTP, so the neurological test battery, based on these 2-year finger data we have. And we divided then the participants in two groups, sorry, in a high risk and a low risk group. So basically, based on the quantile, the persons which have been on the lower end, you see this in the smaller graphic on the bottom, others were in a low risk group. With this data, so to say, every participant we joined in the study with baseline already project in a time of 1 year and 2 years how they will progress regarding NTP. Of course, this is an AI model. Its projection needs to be validated. This gives us an idea how a person, at least probability-based, will develop. Then we did, based on this, a sharp analysis on cohort level, but also on individual level. So basically, if we, for example, have on a high-risk patient, what you can see there, you can see which of the features we used. And these features are, of course, demographic features, but also you can see neurological tests, but also physical tests. You could see which of these features contributed most to this risk of this individual. And here in this example, you could see, for example, that the BI score was contributing to the high risk. The BI score is a nutrition score. And what you could do then, so to say, in our simulation framework, you can go there and simulate, okay, if I manage to change the nutrition score of this individual from 3, which is apparently not good, to a higher score like 9, for example, then you can see in the framework how also the projection of this individual will change, and you could see suddenly that he would transfer to a lower risk group because the BI score, and you can see this on the very right graphic, has now a big contribution to a lower risk of developing dementia based on this AI model. So basically, the aim in future is really to have the possibility to make a really personalized intervention to see for every individual where the risk factors are and which features contribute to the risk, and really tailor the intervention on this individual risk. Yeah, these I explained already. We have in the dashboard then also in future these possibilities of seeing these sharp values, what I just showed you, in a circle. So you can really go in the different intervention domains and check where the risk comes from and where the person best has the most potential to increase and to lower the risk. We did also, like I said before, a trajectory forecasting based on the NTP. We also did other simulations on other scores like KAIDE and others, which were the outcome parameter of the AI model to really see how these scores will develop potentially in future. And the last or another thing what we did is the adherence projection model. You can see here on the y-axis in this graphic, the different intervention domains like physical activity, diet, and so on. And you see down on the x-axis, sorry, the weeks. And in color coding per patient ID, we would see if the individual is adherent in these different categories, and then we can also predict these. So we can predict if a person will in a domain drop out or lower the adherence, and then intervene by, of course, in-person intervention, sorry, by phoning him, or simply tailor the intervention with lower goals, for example, to bring him back on the track in this particular intervention domain. And with that, I would hand over to my colleague, Jeroen. If there are questions, please put them in the chat. And yeah, thanks already for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Stan. Hi, everyone. Honored to be here and tell you a little bit about my research on behavior change within the scope of the LETHE project. And as you can already see in the title, behavior change is much easier said than done. And yeah, for me, it was also an honor to tag along in the LETHE project and try to embed some mechanisms to support people and enhance their capability of changing some behaviors. In the LETHE project, we have a work package with tasks specifically tailored towards behavior change. And one of these tasks was focused on identifying relevant determinants of behavior. And when I talk about these determinants of behavior, I'm not talking about sex or genes. Of course, sex or certain genes or personality, they determine what people do and if people change. But in the scope of a preventive lifestyle intervention, it's not so interesting because you cannot change sex or genes. It's not practical, it's not ethical to do. So when I talk about the determinants of behavior that are relevant to change within the scope of an intervention, I talk about social, cognitive, or psychological factors, such as attitudes or certain expectations towards the outcome, or having the perception that you have the ability or capability to change. And if you know what the most relevant determinants are, you can strategically select specific behavior change methods to establish change in those determinants and make it more likely that people actually change some of the behaviors that contribute then to the risk reduction of cognitive decline. So within the scope of LETHE, we try to embed these behavior change methods in specific digital practical applications, such as the adherence paths, which Stan already showed a bit about, but we also sent personalized push notifications to the participants based on these spots to support adherence. And you could, of course, also use information from these adherence spots in the in-person contact that the clinical team had with the participants in the trial. So yeah, this research is not something that you do behind your desk. Of course, you do in very close triangulation with literature and theory, but also with the clinical team who have lots of expertise in working with older adults and trying to help them to change, but also with the technical team, who, of course, are very creative and had to develop all of these digital applications. And something unique in the project is that we also had an advisory board comprising of people with risk for cognitive decline or even with cognitive decline or dementia, who sort of became our critical friends in the project. And they also helped in a couple of meetings to discuss this research and also the applications that we've been developing. So I think it's very unique that we have such an advisory board to help us along the way. So let's zoom a little bit in, because you see in this first step, we did really a bottom-up approach. We started talking to the people who this is about, and then asked also a larger sample to complete a questionnaire to identify those determinants. So I'm quickly talking you through this because I think these are also valid results also for the future. So in order to interview people, we spread posters on public places, and we looked for adults above the age of 40 who had room for improvement in lifestyle. So they went to a website and completed a short questionnaire based on the Lifestyle for Brain Health Index, which allowed us to identify who had room or ability to improve certain lifestyle domains in order to reduce the risk for cognitive decline. And we interviewed them about lifestyle in general, but also reflected on the room they had to improve, and discussed whether or not they were open and willing to change and what made it difficult or what enabled them to do so. And as you can see on the poster on the left side of the screen, we didn't mention here the word dementia because we really looked to recruit people from the general public and not only caregivers who are more likely to sign up if you mention already the word dementia. So what the results here learned us is that it is much easier said than done, which refers directly back to my title, because the risk for cognitive decline is something that people from the public think is very abstract, because they feel dementia occurs decades in the future, but it's also linked to a variety of behaviors, such as physical activity, smoking, alcohol, diet intake, but also tons of health conditions that people have, which make it very difficult to estimate also how small lifestyle changes reduce the risk for cognitive decline. So I think this is also a nice bridge to the work that Stan presented about this risk prediction, that it can help to visualize, for example, and discuss with participants how certain changes can potentially contribute to that risk, because it's very difficult for people to understand. It's abstract, it's not tangible. We also observed that many in our sample, they were very positive already towards having a healthy lifestyle, but they were more reluctant to change those behaviors that actually had room for improvement. So they wanted to do more physical activity, for example, while they already did enough physical activity, but they didn't want to quit with drinking alcohol. I think this is a normal human tendency to change the things that you feel capable of changing. Many of our participants also thought about lifestyle change in terms of all or nothing. They felt radical changes were needed, for example, to do all of out of nothing multiple days of the week, very intensive physical activity, but not only physical activity, also diet, alcohol, and not smoking anymore, for example. So changes in multiple lifestyle domains simultaneously, which we know from evidence, which is very difficult. And we observed in these interviews very hardly any realistic small lifestyle plans or goals. And we know that being over-ambitious about change eventually often leads also to no change at all. In the sample of the people that we spoke to, we also observed that many of them already tried to change certain behaviors of their lifestyle in the past. And that often also fails. I think many of us also have experiences with this. And this also initiates self-doubts to whether or not people are able to change. And some of the participants even referred back to themselves as, I'm weak, I'm not capable to do it, I'm not strong enough. So it also shows that these past attempts to change, they also influence the self-image of people and make it more difficult to make new attempts to change. So this is also something that we try to take into account in the design of the intervention I will show later. Of course, we wanted to also explore it in a larger sample, and this is why we spread 2 questionnaires through a research agency who has quite a representative panel in the Netherlands. They do a lot of marketing research and also panels about politics, for example. And we leveraged their sample to spread 2 questionnaires, a screening questionnaire measuring behaviors relevant to dementia risk reduction. It was also based on the Lifestyle for Brain Health Index. And if people had a room for improvement, we've sent them a follow-up questionnaire on these behavioral determinants, which are then the psychological factors to see what enables people to change and what not. These items we developed ourselves because there wasn't a questionnaire available on all of these determinants specific for behaviors. We used that definitions and instructions on behavioral research, but we also co-created with experts in the field. And we involved here people with a low socioeconomic position because we know that dementia risk is also linked to socioeconomic inequality. And we wanted to make sure our questionnaire was valid for them as well. So here you can see some of the results of this large study. Over 4,000 people from the Dutch public participated. And you can see highlighted in green that many had room for improvement according to the Dutch lifestyle guidelines. You can see, for example, 50% we labeled as physically inactive. You might think that this is a lot, and we compared this also to available data from our Bureau of Statistics, and this is actually even an underestimation compared to those, because you have in these panels very often a healthy participant bias. But based on this, we concluded that already 90% of the people that we completed our questionnaires had room for improvement in one of these behaviors. And 65 could actually do 2 or more, showing that there's actually a great potential for this dementia risk reduction. We also explored a little bit deeper to see how this relates to socioeconomic position. And you can actually see on the left side in the green boxes that most of the risk factors for cognitive decline in dementia, they occur more often in the sample with a lower socioeconomic position. And we base this on alcohol and income. Of course, socioeconomic position is more complex, but you need to determine it somehow. And you can see here, for example, that the participants in that low socioeconomic group were older, but also more often female. And we know that also the prevalence of dementia is higher in individuals from the female gender. And except from overconsumption of alcohol, all the other risk factors were more often observed in that low socioeconomic group. Well, maybe I'll go a bit too fast, but based on this, you think there's a lot of room for improvement. But we explored a little bit deeper, and we also found out that people may be not aware of their own room for improvement. So here you can see in the green boxes again, that the people who we labeled as physically inactive, they didn't adhere to the Dutch guidelines of doing physical activity. 40% of those who were labeled inactive actually feel they do enough physical activity. So they seem unaware of their own room for improvement. And you see the similar pattern also for low Mediterranean diet. We used that in MEDAS, a Mediterranean diet screener. And based on the scoring guidelines, individuals who scored very low on this, so in the lowest percentile of the scoring, half of them thought actually they had already a healthy diet. So and the same you see for alcohol, and the same you see also for social and cognitive activity. The lowest 25% of people who engage in these cognitive and social activities, half of them actually think they do enough. We, of course, also explored other psychological determinants, such as intentions or attitudes, risks, and control. This is a complicated slide. It's confidence interval-based estimation of relevance. It's a technique that you can use to explore which determinants have room for improvement and how they associate to behavior. So on the left side, you can see in the left pane, you can basically see the distribution of scorings and the means and the confidence intervals of those means. And this is for physical activity. And what you can see here in the orange box is actually the risk perceptions of people of not doing enough physical activity, how that contributes to negative effects for physique, but also for brain health and also for dementia risk. And you see here that it declines a little bit. So people see less risk of being physical activity for dementia. But overall, these risks are pretty accurate. Most of our group, for example, felt that not doing enough physical activity is a health risk of about 4. for physique, which is quite accurate because if you don't do physical activity today, you don't get, of course, a physical complaint tomorrow. And you can also see on the right side of the plot that the associations here, the diamonds, they are actually on the zero, which means that people who perceive more risk not necessarily have a higher likelihood of adhering to the lifestyle recommendations of physical activity. So at the bottom of the plot, you can see a clear distinction in the control domain in the green box between the participants who are sedentary, purple, and those who are active. And those who are purple, they perceive less control over being physically active. Of course, it is cross-sectional, so it can be bidirectional, this relationship, that if you do more physical activity, you experience more control, of course, and partly also the other way around. If you don't perceive enough control, you don't do the physical activity. But that being said, we do see that there is a room for improvement in those who don't adhere to the guidelines, who really score much lower than those who adhere to the guidelines. And we also see that there is a relatively strong link to adhering to those guidelines. So there's a stronger correlation, as you see in the right pane of this plot. So overall, to summarize a little bit, we saw that many have room for improvement, but they may be unaware of this. Other relevant determinants for interventions or attitudes, for example, having passion for cooking or deriving pleasure from drinking or smoking. Many also have misperceptions, overestimated their healthy diet intake and underestimated risk behaviors, such as high levels of alcohol intake. And overall, many perceive low behavioral control over physical activity, diet, and also smoking. And we observed in the group with a lower socioeconomic position that they have less self-confidence. They see healthy food as more expensive, which is also a barrier to changing eating habits. And they see habits and their environment as less influential, for example, on alcohol intake or smoking behavior. And they have less confidence to change. So I think these provide us very useful insights also for the future development of some interventions. So what did we do with this in the LETHE project? We summarized all of this according to the intervention mapping approach. At least we borrowed elements of this approach. And we thought about which behavior change methods to change those relevant determinants could be maybe applied in the LETHE approach. And we did this, of course, in very close collaboration with the clinical and technical team, who were very creative and helped us along the way. But also we discussed with the people from the advisory board to gain also their perspective. Stan already showed you this dashboard, but I think it's a very good example, this dashboard, because you can clearly see some of the behavioral change methods at work. For example, goal setting, but also action planning. There was a calendar being provided. And these tiny habits, they are basically a behavior change method that is known as implementation intention, making it very small and formulating them in an if-then combination. For example, if I go grocery shopping, then I buy a vegetable that I haven't eaten past month, as some kind of a small, a challenge that people do to change their eating patterns in daily life. And of course, they self-monitored what they do to reduce also those misperceptions that many people in our research showed to have. Something else that we developed in very close collaboration also with the team from Ford in Greece, Vasilis and Tomas and Stavros were very involved in the development of this, but also the team of Stan and of course the clinical team, is that we, based on the Fitbit and based on unobtrusive passive data, we try to estimate the adherence of participants to certain lifestyle components, such as physical activity. And we, in our backend, push them into a green, yellow, or red path, as Stan already showed. Participants didn't see this, but we use it also to send them push notifications. So in the green, it was more about positive recognition and positive feedback that they did very well, or inspiring them to do something. You can see a message here, for example, that if you dance, that is good for your balance, and asking them what their favorite song is. So it also has a cue to action. But if people struggled a little bit more, we asked more for self-monitoring certain behaviors. Such as here, how many colors are on the dinner plate, because it's a funny message, of course, but if you send these messages for over 2 years, you also cannot send messages always about 150 grams of vegetables or healthy. It becomes very repetitive. So we try to be also a bit out of the box here. But they were more tailored towards self-monitoring or gathering social and environmental resources, planning certain activities, setting new goals, trying out tiny habits, for example. And in the RUT part, we flagged it on the clinical dashboards, allowing the clinicians also to discuss it during the in-person meetings, because there's very often also a valid reason for not adhering to something. For example, if the Fitbit watch is broke, or if you get skin irritations from the band. And this is, of course, something that we really wanted to also account for. And we also devoted the energy a bit away from our app if this was the case. For example, cognitive activity was operationalized with a brain training, but of course hobbies are also great brain trainings, for example. So if people didn't do the cognitive training, we also try to motivate them to look for something else. Stan already showed that if you have a system like this, you basically get large tables per participants and per behavior, monitoring whether or not they stay in the green or whether or not they change. And something that we're going to do in the future is we're going to explore further how we can leverage machine learning techniques to predict these changes in adherence, because that also allows you to proactively offer support to participants to make sure they stay stable or they increase, but not decrease over time, which is, of course, very difficult if you talk about behavior change. It goes with setbacks very often, but you could provide potentially better support to participants going through that behavior change cycle. So we have a couple of papers published about it. So if you're interested, have a look at it. I think, these are all open access available, so you should be able to access. Thank you very much for the attention. I look very much forward also to the open discussion round at the end to answer questions. And I'm happy to hand over also the word to Helena, who is, I think, the next speaker, who will talk you through the first preliminary findings of the RCT.
Thank you very much, Jeroen. Yeah. Good morning also from my side. My name is Helena Unterstein. I'm a PhD student at the Department of Neurology of the Medical University of Vienna. And we here were majorly involved in the conductment of the pilot trials. I'm very happy to walk you through our study design, our rationale behind the study, and also some very, very preliminary findings from the study. So the LETHE pilot study was a feasibility study to test a digitally supported multimodal lifestyle program to promote brain health in older adults. We know from prior studies that multimodal lifestyle domains can bring cognitive benefits to older adults. I will just mention the finger study here because it's, I think, the most important one. And we now wanted to test if we can enhance this lifestyle program with digital tools. The study was conducted at 4 different clinical centers: Vienna, Austria, Stockholm, Sweden, Perugia, Italy, and Helsinki, Finland were involved. These are the major points of our study design. So the recruitment goal was 160 participants, so 40 participants per study site. The most important eligibility criteria was age between 60 and 77 years old. Our participants were not demented, so their cognitive performance was on average or just slightly below for their age. But they had an increased dementia risk. This was measured with the KID risk score, which had to be 6 or higher. And the last very important inclusion criteria was that they had a certain knowledge of technology and were digitally fit. The study intervention duration was 24 months long. We had 2 study groups, so this is a randomized controlled trial. We randomized participants after the baseline visit into an intervention group and a control group. The intervention group received digital and in-person intervention elements, and the control group received static health information. We had 3 post-baseline follow-up visits at month 6, month 12, and the final visit at month 24. Here you can see a quick overview of the intervention program. So we had 6 lifestyle domains that we focused on: physical activity, nutrition, cognitive training, management of cardiovascular and metabolic risk factors, sleep and relaxation, and social activities. You can see on the left-hand side the in-person elements of our program. So there we did some individual and group level-based consultations and sessions. We did weekly strength trainings with a physiotherapist at all the sites. We did different group sessions also to enhance the the peer support. On the right-hand side, you can see the digital elements of our intervention program. I think this was also majorly discussed already in the presentation of Stan. And at the bottom here, you can see that we also had some multi-domain elements, especially in the Lethe app. So there were the personal goals, the tiny habits, and also educational material. And we also Slides are not working. Okay, so here are our outcomes listed, and we have two primary outcomes. The first of it is the feasibility, and here we measured the retention rate and also the adherence. And the second primary outcome is the change in dementia risk, which is measured based on two very validated dementia risk scores named LIBRA and CAIDE score. And our secondary outcomes include change in healthy lifestyle, in cognition, in stress, sleep, health-related quality of life, and health literacy. We have a really long list of exploratory outcomes that are not all listed here, but for example, we analyzed there Alzheimer-related blood biomarkers like p-tau levels or NFL levels, and also MRI data are analyzed. So now we come to our study progress or study timeline. We started with the recruitment back in September 2022, and the recruitment was done a little bit differently in all the 4 clinical sites, but it was done through posters and social media advertisements. After recruitment, we did a remote pre-screening, then a screening, and then participants were invited to baseline visits. Overall, 160 participants were invited to baseline visits, which were completed by May 2023. 156 participants were then randomized, and so included in the study, exactly 78 per study group. The randomization was completed in June 2023, and exactly 2 years later, so basically now 1 month ago, we were able to finalize with the last 24-month study visits. Here you can see a quick overview of our baseline data. So this is our study population. You can see the age is approximately 70 years. We had a majority of female participants in our study population. There also is a significant difference in the gender between intervention and control group. And our participants are very, very highly educated, as you can see in the education years. For cognitive function here mentioned is the MMSE, which is a very, very broad scale to measure cognitive performance. And you can see it is 28, which is kind of the upper limit. So 30 would be the highest score. So our participants were not cognitively impaired at baseline. But as you can see here below, vascular, cardiovascular, and metabolic risk factors for dementia were very common at baseline. So there was a certain risk of dementia. Now we come to our first results. So these are all very preliminary, but I will walk through it with you. So first of all, we had a very high retention rate. Stan already mentioned this. We only had 4 dropouts throughout the whole trial. This is 2.6%, and 1 participant was lost to follow-up. At the end, 151 participants of 156 came to the last study visit. So we had data of these participants, and there was no significant difference between control and intervention group. These are some data about the app usage throughout both study years. So you can see here on the y-axis the percentage of use per day, and here on the x-axis there are the different days. You can see here in red the intervention group, in black the overall score, and in blue the control group. Overall, the relative number of participants using the app per day was nearly 30%. It was higher in the intervention group because also they had more functionalities in their Lethe app. It was approximately 40%, and in the control group there was a usage of 20%. And you can see in this figure, this is very, very interesting, these 3 peaks, and they correlate time-wisely exactly with our study visits. So it appears that we could motivate with the study visits participants to use the app more often. And then here starts approximately the second year, and we can see here the forms some kind of plateau. It is between, for the intervention group, between 40 and 20%. And in this yellow area here, these were approximately the last 6 months, there were no in-person intervention activities. And this is kind of a good sub-result because we can see that this plateau stays stable. Maybe it also increases a little bit, but it's very important for us to see that it does not decrease even if we cut the in-person intervention activities. Here is an overview of the app usage across all 4 study sites. We can see that there are different patterns according to which country we look. The highest app usage in the intervention group we had in Austria, and the highest app usage of the control group was in Finland. This is now an overview of the usability. This was analyzed based on the system usability scale. You can see here different statements. First are mentioned statements that are phrased positively, and here below we have statements that are phrased negatively. And as you can see, the majority of participants agreed with the positively phrased statements, like, for example, that the learning to use the app was quick and was easy. And then here below, you can see that the majority of participants disagreed with the negatively phrased statements. So we are very happy with this result here. Now we come to our second primary outcome, which is the change of the CAIDE risk score. This is some very, very preliminary results here because we don't have yet all the data ready to include in the CAIDE risk score, but I think it is enough to kind of have a good overview of the trend of the development. So this is baseline visit, this is the 12-month study visit, and the 24-month study visit. We have here in this dark blue color the control group, and in this bright blue color the intervention group. And as you can see, in the first year, we have a decrease of the CAIDE score in both groups, but it's more pronounced in the intervention group. However, in the second years, this trend seems to reverse a little bit and it increases again. Overall, there is no significant change between both groups in this preliminary CAIDE score here. So what we will do now is to analyze the full CAIDE score, of course, and also the LIBRA score. With the LIBRA score, there is the possibility that there will be some significance since there are more modifiable risk factors included there. So at the end, I also have some qualitative feedbacks from our participants. So these are now some quotes of participants here in Vienna who were all really, really positive about the study. Also, the control group was very happy. And I think the majority of them said they would participate in such a study again. So there was one man that said he's never been this athletic in his whole life. For the first time, he can do several push-ups. And a woman said the study was like an anchor for her, and another guy said also the study was his lifesaver. So overall, we have very, very positive feedbacks from participants. So with this positive note and also with these visual impressions from our study, I would like to thank you for your attention. And I give the floor now to Mattia that will present us the Brain Health Literacy Portal.
Thanks, Helena, for the nice slides, and Jeroen. Yeah, we have now a live demo of the Brain Health Literacy Portal, like I mentioned before. This will actually be something which will also stay beyond the project. Mattia, I think you can share the screen, right?
Yes, I'm gonna do it.
And please,
Okay,
please
I
let
hope you all can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, I will start from the landing page actually. Let me switch it. Okay, so first of all, I would like to present myself for a little bit. My name is Mattia and I work for Innovation to Grow, which was part of the LETHE project in the communication and dissemination part. And today I'm here to present to you all the Brain Health Literacy Portal, which is an outcome of the LETHE project, in which we worked closely with the clinical partner together with Alzheimer Europe and all the other organization and consortium partners. And this will be a portal, as it says, in which we'll basically retain media content and scientific information, articles, video about brain health and in relation to the prevention of dementia. We structure the Brain Health Literacy Portal for two kind of use, which is on one side for the healthcare professional, in which they can upload the content in the BEM. Let me find the right page. I have to log out, I guess. And yeah, as I was saying, one would be for the the healthcare professional, that they would be able to upload their media content on the BELP. Let me just, here we are. The Brain Health Literacy Portal landing page finally made it. Okay. And here, as you can see, we wanted to create a space in which both the healthcare professional would feel safe to upload their content on brain health, on nutrition, on physical activity, on social activities, and on all the topics that are scientifically known to reduce the risk factor for dementia and that are connected to lifestyle. So basically, a portal in which each professional can upload tips for the general population in order to be able to engage in a more, let's say, brain healthy lifestyle. And of course, on the other side, for the general population and all the people at risk of dementia, or all the people that are interested in taking care of their brain health, in which they can find reliable, scientific, valid, and accessible information on brain health. So let's consider it as a, let's say, Netflix, we like it to call it like that, of brain health, because now I will show you also all the different steps of the login and of the actual portal, because this portal has a unique feature that it gives you the personalization of the content. And now I will quickly show you the page in which you somebody that is interested in brain health can create their account. So, for example, let me move this here. Here we will ask for the age. I will just do some compilation for you. Probably, as you can hear, I'm from Italy. And here we ask just for the email and for the username and a password. And when a person subscribes, here we go for the personalization of the portal. And this is key in order to bring to the people the content that they are more likely to like, actually. So we have 6 elements in the portal. One is short videos, one is our like more long videos. So one is like YouTube Reels, Instagram Reels, and the second are more like long videos, like interviews and stuff like that. Infographic, which are easy to digest, let's say. Podcast, divulgative article, and scientific article. And we ask the user to rank them. And keep in mind that this rank will stay and will, when we go in the actual portal, I will show you later, the content will be displayed in this priority order. And then, I put it, okay. And then, second, it's the topic, because in the Brain Health Literacy Portal, we would like to gather content on all the topics that are scientifically known to reduce the risk of dementia and cognitive decline. So, of course, we have exercise and physical activity, nutrition and diet, all the lifestyle habits and the cardiovascular risk factor management, sleep, meditation, and relaxation, and of course, cognitive health. And of course, we have content that takes these topics in the most like wide approach, from which type of food are more like rich in omega-3 to how to be more active, how to engage in cognitive stimulating activities and all stuff like that. And here we ask for another ranking. And here, of course, we go for the notification, because as every portal that you know on other domains and topics, we will send notification to the people that join the portal with the kind of a newsletter of all the updated content that were updated in the last, depending if it's every month, every 2 weeks, or every week, we would like keep the users updated. And after this, I would like to show you also the actual portal, the home, and this is how a user will see their actual portal. Here we have, of course, the actually 5 language of the project, and a content creator like a researcher or a healthcare professional can upload their content in English or in their native language. And we also have an automatic tool that automatically translate the content in the language. And of course, this will undergo, of course, the check of the accuracy of the translation from the clinical partner. And here I will quickly show you how the content will be displayed. Here we have, of course, some initial content. Like, for example, myself, I'm a, let's say, personal trainer, and I shoot a video of exercise for a healthy brain with tips, the brain-derived neurotropic factor, how exercise can improve that. And we also have some videos, especially like from Jeroen, on how to change behavior. We have also like informative articles, scientific articles, and this is a key for us to maintain, because people have different level of health literacy. So we like the idea to keep all this information inside a portal, and each people can see what is digestible and interesting for you, with the hope that the people that will use the portal in the long run will increase actually their health literacy and their knowledge about dementia prevention through our content. And this is the user side. Now I want to show you quickly also the healthcare professional side, because the brain health literacy portal works well with the combination of users and content provider. And for the content provider, of course, we have on board different specialists from the Lethe team. We are also like reaching out for the general public and everybody that is listening and works in the field of dementia and lifestyle is more than welcome to contact us to join as a content provider. And here, same as for the user registration, we have also a more like professional, let's say, content provider registration. And keep in mind that every healthcare professional or content provider that subscribe will undergo our and Lethe partner check to verify its credential and credibility and scientific accuracy. Here we ask for, of course, the name, all the social media pages to verify that their content is on board with the current scientific evidence, which main topic they are addressing, more or less the content publication frequency, the language of the content, and that we can use our automatic tool to translate the content that the content provider is providing. And here, this application of a new content provider will be sent to us. We will verify them. And then after this, when a content provider is verified, we will go for the actual page where the content provider can actually upload content. And here I will show you mine, which is, of course, I do exercise, so this was the best picture I could find of me in the Netherlands. And here, as you can see, we have the interface for uploading content. Here we have the all 6 categories of media allowed: short videos, long videos, infographics, scientific article, podcast, and divulgative articles. And a content provider can choose to select a specific file, give us a link that can be a YouTube reel, a YouTube videos, an Instagram reel, whatever format, a Spotify link for the podcast, for example. The content, let me just give an example. We have, of course, cognitive health, exercise and physical activity, and also the domains that are key in the LETHE project. The language, and this is the BELP card, the Brain Health Literacy Portal card, in which we can create our own card, and this will be identifiable for every content provider. Here, I will show you just how it looks. Exercise and brain health. And this is the way you will see it in the Brain Health Literacy Portal. Once you upload your content, that can be in each of this form, we, together with the clinical partner and all the other consortium partner, depending on the topic that is the content about, we will also not only verify the credibility and credential of their content provider, but also of the content itself, that is scientific valid, updated. And we care a lot about that because we really want to be developed to be a safe and scientific valid space for the general population to find accurate information about dementia, because nowadays with social media, there is a lot of misinformation, a lot of half truth or sensationalism about health. And we want to prevent that through this double verification. And of course, this all project, the BELP, was also multiple time tested through the collaboration of Alzheimer Europe and LETHE Advisory Board, which is a selection of expert patients that really guided us in choosing what would be interesting for the patient. So again, take home message: if there is anybody interested in joining as a content provider, we are more than welcome to accept. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mattia. I think we come to the questions now. John, can you bring up the slides again? This is the last slide to be after the question round. So we have some questions in the chat already. From Inge. First question: how does this app relate to the Dutch Brain Coach app? Yeah, maybe I can take this. It has been actually developed in another group in Masters University, and maybe also Jeroen can say some words. But in general said, of course, there are other apps which meanwhile address brain health, some categories, some also more categories. I would say back then, 4 to 5 years back when we wrote Lethe, there was not so much availability on the market. I think what is a bit special in Lethe is, of course, that we now evaluated this app in a 2-year trial. I think this is a big achievement, also the publications which will come. A second point is, of course, a strength that we try with this AI content really go to a personalized intervention, meaning don't have a tailored, a fixed study protocol, but really go where the most potential of the user of the app is. And the second, I think, which I hope where Lethe can contribute also in future, I mean the app and the CTMS board, I think it's very tailored for intervention studies, especially this combination of app and professional dashboard, where in a hybrid intervention, where I think this is the future, it's unlikely to leave in any intervention, health intervention, people alone with an app for a longer period, 2 years or longer. So the hybrid approach, I think, is very valuable or makes a lot of sense. And here, this combination of the app and the dashboard, where the professional can set goals, can make appointments, can push messages, goes beyond, I think, a general health intervention app, which are, of course, many available or more available now. Good. I hope this answers the questions. If not, please also raise your voice. Then there is a question to Helena. I don't know if you could see it. The question is, as all the groups use the app, just a reminder on what was the difference between the groups, especially, I guess, regarding the app content.
Yes, so the intervention group received this whole app package that Stan also presented. I hope you remember. For the control group, they only received static health content. So they had one button where they can click, and then there was like this library with different websites with recipes, for example, and with websites that explained physical activity and how it promotes brain health and so on. So it was very, very, very unpersonalized and untailored for the control group. What they also had in the Lethe app was, which was very practical for us, they had a functionality where they could answer some questionnaires. So we had the same method of outcome collection in both groups, and they also had a calendar where we could make some appointments for example, the study visits and so on. So intervention-wise, there was just this very general health content for the control group, which also received the intervention group, of course, and there was just some minor administrative functionalities in the control group there.
Thanks. Then there's another question for Mattia. Content providers are often not clinicians, as this is not their priority, and I guess they have also no time. And there is no strong incidence to provide content. So who are the main targets, I guess, especially regarding content on the Brain Health portal? And what would then be their role?
Yeah, that's a really valid question. For the clinicians part, there are many barriers to that, but I think that researcher and other healthcare professional that have this will to communicate and disseminate about to the general public about the prevention on dementia can join. This is something that probably is very diffuse in the US. In Europe is a bit less, but I think that the general public can benefit from like expert in a field going out and disseminating facts and actual strategies instead of focusing on some, I don't know, eat nuts and then your life will change, these a bit skeptical messages. We want like the researcher to join a bit also the dissemination to the general public as well.
Good, thanks, Mattia. Yeah, I hurry up a bit because we have not so much time anymore, and there have been 3 questions from our form, but maybe we take Pushcry before, as we have here live interaction. Pushcry, please raise your question.
Hi, good morning. Amazing project. Kudos to the team. So I am Pushkaraj. I'm co-founder of Manastik. We are a teleneurology startup from India. We deal with diagnosis and rehabilitation of multidisciplinary rehabilitation of dementia patients. So right now we are starting a clinical trial. So my question was that can we utilize the screening questionnaires that you have used for our trials as well, so that we have a harmonized data set? And we'll be doing a family-based trial. So we'll be also having potential onset of dementia patients and their family members who are aged 50 plus in part of our trial as well. So my first question is, can we utilize those screening questionnaires that Jerome talked about? And the second one was, are these AI models, can these be used? Can a collaboration be done regarding them? Because our upcoming project is about the preventative side of it. So can we use the similar AI models? Can a collaboration be done on a similar basis?
Yeah, thanks, Pushkar. We had already a meeting, but yeah, the first question I would hand to Helena. You want to take it? The first part of the question.
Yeah, so if I understood it correctly, you were talking about the eligibility criteria of our study. Is that right?
Yes, and a couple of screening questionnaires that Jerome talked about.
Okay, I mean for the eligibility criteria, they are already published in detail, so I think it will not be a problem if you use exactly the same one. It might even be very interesting also for us, so we can kind of enlarge our study population and gain for sure more insights with higher population count. I will hand over to you, Arun, for the screening questionnaire.
Yeah, so the screening questionnaire we have been using, it was not part of the trial. So the participants in the trial, they didn't complete it, but we inventoried based on the Lifestyle for Brain Health Index, risk factors in the general population. And the good thing is that everything is open. So the questionnaire, it wasn't obviously in Dutch, but we made an English translation available. And I think nowadays you could also maybe translate the Dutch version with AI to English or to your local language if you want to. And we also have, I will share in the chat, the accompanying data with the paper open access available. So you can also use that data, and let me know if you want to have access into that data set, because we are very open science minded, so I'm happy to share.
Pushkar, I would suggest I organize another meeting, maybe also with Jeroen and Helena, depending on the time, if it's really something that we can align the studies. Regarding the AI, is of course we also here are happy to other studies validating these algorithms. It depends here a lot, of course, on that you use the same features or collect the same data in baseline like we need for our model. So it would make a lot of sense, of course, to align these data that you can validate and use these AI predictions, definitely. I will come back to you. I have your contact in LinkedIn, and I will organize another meeting, yeah? Thanks for
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And kudos to the team.
chasing us up. Miriam, you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much to all of you for these interesting anticipations of the LETHE results, of which I was one of the contributors, but very little help. I'd like to know if you could share with us your all this presentation, which I found so interesting that I need to revise, of course, and with the more depth as possible. Thank you for all the sharing that you would give the material that would be made available. And also, I have a question for Mattia, especially. That means that the question is, I intend that you strongly advocate the subscription to the portal, isn't it, Mattia? Is Mattia?
Yes, absolutely. Both from the general population and from the content providers.
If so, as I guessed, I wonder how we could help in disseminating these. Suppose that I have friends, people. Do you think that would be, and every one of us, would be useful for you that I could make this?
Yes.
available to other people?
Absolutely, yes. I will contact you directly since we were, engaging with the robot and stuff. When the portal is ready, we still miss a couple of technical adjustments. I can send it to you, and please spread the word.
Okay. Thank you, Mattia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you, Miriam. Yeah, and again, for those others online, Miriam has been part of our patient advisory board, has been a great contribution to the project, and it shows now nicely that, yeah, also this positive spirit we could bring in this area. Regarding the materials, I think John will send out the recording of this video for sure, probably also the slides. And also, I would recommend for everyone to follow the LinkedIn channel. I think also after the project, we will post there if publications come out in the next half year. As I said, we are still in the process. There are some in the pipeline. We are still starting to analyze the data. So it makes definitely sense to follow up also here. Is there another question from the audience here? Then I think we have time for, I think, at least one from the form.
Apologies, there's one more question that's just come in the chat.
How do you plan to support the exploitation of the training platform now that the project has ended? This goes also to Mattia, I think, and Matteo. I think he's also online. Matteo, you want to take this question? Exploitation.
Yes. If we mean like the training platform, we consider the brain health literacy portal. I think that could be.
Okay. Yeah. Should maybe also the app. Yeah. Please go ahead. Be help platform for now. Yeah.
Yeah. For our side, I think to the general public, the easiest would be to reach it through engaged clinicians and probably also patient association and bodies like Alzheimer Europe. If they disseminate that through their each local agency, I think would be a good strategy.
Good. And if, Luke, you mean the whole Lethe setup, the app and so on, is also a very good question. It's a lot discussed in the project. We have now, for now, this is actually on my last slide, which I can bring up already. We have some projects which are already started, which partially use some of the Lethe results. International projects, but also national projects, maybe soon one in India as well. But for sure in the project which is there called LETHE, we have now another study aligned, which starts in autumn this year in Austria in 3 clinical centers where we want to further enhance the intervention setup by gamification elements. And also validate the AI algorithms, which have been, like I said earlier, developed in Lethe, but of course not have been validated yet. This would be another aim of this project. And then, of course, also what I mentioned also shortly, these brain health service centers, so that really the question, how can these interventions on people at risk, which have not dementia symptoms yet and are not in the clinics yet, but have risk factors which could lead to dementia, how they can be addressed in risk communication and risk interventions. I think this is a general trend in Europe, at least. There are publications regarding these. And I hope here also the road goes on for the Lethe technology, for the app dashboard and AI components and maybe other components, if these will answer your questions. It's not, unfortunately, ready on the market yet, but I would not exclude that it will be in a certain time scale, let's say half a year, next year. Let's see. Please follow our channels to see more. So for now, the exploitation is basically based on reusage evaluation and in other research projects. This is the plan for now. as we reached the end of the project, I am on the right slide already. I hope it was interesting. I hope you follow us further to see also more publications and results. Reuse, we are very open for collaborations. Reuse our technology, reuse our findings. Come to us for further collaborations. I want to thank all of you in the call, of course, also my internal colleagues also for supporting us, to staying with us. Yeah, let's stay in contact, create an impact, and achieve more great results. Yeah, happy for being with us and following the LETHE project. Thank you.